get something out of the cupboard the other day and open the refrigerator. It wasn't in what I wanted in the cupboard, wasn't in the refrigerator. Moms are special people, as we said. Every one of them, you know, every once in a while, I'll see a card or a plaque, and I've seen it several times, that says God couldn't be everywhere, so He created mothers. Now, I know that's not theologically correct, but God created moms, women, with the ability to multitask. And it's proven. Now, some men can do that, but women can multitask a lot better than men. God made them that way. Do you understand why? Dinner cooking, phone ringing, you know, kids running around, doing this and that, making sure this is done, that's done. You can understand why moms have to multitask. You can understand why they do. So Proverbs chapter 31, of course, several verses in this chapter talks about mothers, but Genesis 3:20 says, and Adam, he called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all living. Somebody had to start the whole thing. Somebody had to start the whole process. I think it was Becky's dad's 80th birthday. We all went up there, had a surprise party for him. We're out on Lake Michigan, and there's rocks up there. I mean, they're giant. I don't know where they got these things to line the whole shore right around downtown Racine. And all the kids, the grandkids and the great-grandkids are all running all over the place. And we were all, of course, the older ones were back watching the kids. And I told him, I said, look what you and your wife started. From the two of you, it's all your fault. We said, Becky, Connie, Linda, Mary. It has to start somewhere. So Eve, the mother of all. So mothers are most valuable. Now we all have things that we count as valuable. Proverbs 31:10 says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above what? Far above rubies. Now, I realize this was written thousands of years ago. And I don't know what they had to compare to rubies. Of course, diamonds are a lot more precious now, but maybe rubies were the most expensive thing that they had. Now we know Solomon wrote this, and Solomon was at that time the richest man in the world, but the price is far above rubies. Now women like diamond rings. You know, diamond is a woman's best friend. How come the dog's a man's best friend? It just doesn't add up. But women like shiny things. They like pearls. They like things that are fancy. They like things that show off. And that's fine. No problem with that. But their price is far above rubies. Virtuous, the word virtuous equals a valuable resource, power of strength. Moms, a valuable resource, power of strength. I was talking to my mom this morning. She called me on my birthday. Told me the same story again today. She said, when I brought you home, she said, 24 hours a day, you woke me up every 3 hours to eat. She said, that's probably why you're so healthy now. I was 3 3/4 pounds when I was born. Or like Connie or somebody said a couple weeks ago, said the thing said I want to get back to my original weight. 5 pounds is too hard to do though. But I was small. But she said every 3 hours I woke her up because I was hungry. She said I was just a couple months old, and we'd go to my grandma's, and Grandma would have fried potatoes and stuff, and she'd mash them all up, and Mom said I wanted that and started eating that. And I said, a lot of doctors now tell you not to give them food until they're a year old. She said I started eating Grandma's fried potatoes all mashed up. My grandma was an excellent cook. I have never, still to this day, and she's been gone since 1985. Both my grandmothers died within a week of each other, but I've never been able to make macaroni and cheese, and I have a lot of stuff I've cooked. I've never been able to make macaroni and cheese like my grandma. I don't know what, of course, as kids on Christmas Eve, when we always had it, and other times, we weren't interested in watching in the kitchen watching, we were playing. But I've never been able to duplicate my grandma's macaroni and cheese. But my mom said I wanted to eat. So virtuous, a power of strength. You ever hear the comment, I'm just a stay-at-home mom? I have a word here, I put it in capital, I could have put a slide here. Capital letters, just. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Melissa in the hospital. Ryan's been Mr. Mom lately. Melissa's home and she's doing a little better, but they're still fighting all this stuff, so keep her in your prayers. But Ryan has been working, and Melissa's in bed. She was in the hospital for a week and taking care of 4 kids and staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning working. And you know, and the kids go to bed early, and then they get up early, and meals, and now the kids do help cook. Aiden called me yesterday Connor called me the other day for a recipe. He fixed supper yesterday. Aiden called me yesterday for how to cook. They had lamb breast, and they were going to have that today. He don't know how to cook it. So the kids do help. They like to do that. But that's a big task. Those of you who had kids, Connie, I always think of you with the triplets when you were babysitting. Connie said she opened the refrigerator and 6 hands reach in there. Not just 2. You open it, if you would have fed them, they wouldn't have to do that. But 6 hands all reach in there grabbing stuff. These people say they want triplets and quadruplets and 6 kids and 12 kids and 18 kids and all that. Wow. An informal study conducted by website salary.com shows that stay-at-home moms could earn an average of $131,471 annually, including overtime, if they received a paycheck. I had the one cartoon up on the pre-church slideshow. It said, if you saw it, it said, "Mom, you can have a day off when we got some people to do what you do." They had a chef there, they had a house cleaner, they had all kinds of other things. And I had the one, if you saw the one, it says, "Forget about trade school." She had 2 kids that said, "Forget about trade school. They're going to start going to homeschool. One's going to learn how to garden, and one's going to learn how to house clean." And then, of course, the other one I was going to have White show it, but it didn't. Said women want somebody to rescue them. Men think that means rescuing them from vicious people, not doing dishes and laundry. Moms, you know what it's like. You talk about doing double time, double duty. You can make, a mom should get paid $131,000 a year. That's a lot of overtime. Moms, be honest. How many of your moms did overtime duty? I'm serious. Raise your hand. Raise your hands. You're up at night. Who is usually your moms? Who's usually the last one in bed? Who's the first one up in the morning? Moms. Fixing breakfast, getting things ready, doing laundry. It's just me and Becky, and a lot of times, most of the time we go to bed at the same time, but there's times I'm just beat, and when I had COVID, I couldn't stay awake. She'd stay up another 2 hours doing laundry, or doing whatever, or this and that, and this and that. She's slowing, I'm trying to get her to slow down a little, but she thinks she can still do what she did when she was 18. Next, mothers are magnanimous. Verse 11, 12. 31:11 of Proverbs says, "The heart of the husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no," I should have capitalized that letter, put that on, "no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life." There's 2 phrases that my wife and I do not use. Mothers are magnanimous. I have never and never will call her my old lady. She has never called me her old man. I believe that's disrespectful. If you do that, that's fine. But we have never done that. We will never do that. I always tell everybody she's older than me, that I married an older lady. 3 months and 20 days. She's 3 months and 20 days older than I am. But we've never called each other old man and old lady. Mothers are magnanimous. I mean, all these words, of course, start with M's. They go with the M and M's. How do you explain what moms are? Those of you who've lost your mothers, you wish they were here. Men, we don't like to admit, but we are incomplete without our wives. Well, yeah, everybody has to have some time away from each other. When I counsel couples that are going to get married, I tell them, you're going to need some me time. But when you first get married, you're always together. Everything you do, everything together. But you have to have some me time, whether it's going to your mom's house, whether it's sewing, whether it's reading a book. Becky and I, we just got married, and we had an opportunity her boss, she worked at a submarine sandwich shop, and there's 3 or 4 places there in Springfield, and she worked at this one on the battlefield, and it was a little bitty place. I'm talking, the whole place was probably the size of my office, and I'm not joking. There was no place to sit in that one. The other ones had places to sit. But her boss offered us to pay us, I forget what it was, he wanted to know if we'd both run that shop full time. And we talked about it. And we decided that we didn't want to do that because we would go to class together, we would be together all day, we'd work together. That's almost 24 hours a day together. I don't care who you are, there's friction. When you're together all the time, when you're with somebody, I don't care who you are, how long you've been married, you got to have some separate time. You got to have some separate time. But mothers are magnanimous next. Mothers are multifaceted. Verses 13 and 14. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is likely the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. Now, back then, multifaceted meant having many aspects, or she's versatile. I know that today, in our day, the younger generation, a lot of them don't do as much. They're not taught as much in schools. I mean, we had bookkeeping in high school, and we had home ec, and they've cut that out. They taught us in English, we had to learn how to fold letters and put them in the envelope properly. If you were business letters, we had to do checkbooks. They don't teach that in most schools anymore. Sewing. Becky took sewing, and then she just loved, she still likes to sew. She's made Kylie dresses, bikini dresses. She made her own wedding dress. She made 4 of the bridesmaids' dresses out of 5. My wife likes to sew. She likes to do bookkeeping. That's why she likes her job at the county. She took that in high school, and she loves that. That's fine. I don't like doing the book. I don't like keeping the checkbook. She does a very good job at it. The only checks we write anymore is to church. The rest of all our bills get paid online. I do that, but that's a little different than keeping track of the balance. We always say thank you to Carrie and Sonny, keeping track of the money. It's a lot of work. We appreciate it. But a godly mother must be all things to all people, and the word is all time. She is Dr. Mom. She is an educator. She is a gourmet cook. She is a homemaker. She's a loving companion to her husband. You remember, anybody remember, like the first few months when Andy Griffith came on, did anybody remember Aunt Bee, what they had her portrayed her as a cook? The first, do what? She was a terrible cook. And then all of a sudden somebody said, this is bad publicity, let's change this around, and then they made her the best cook in the world. Everything she made was perfect. Everything she made was perfect. Now, I can't say that. Any of you moms, dads, any of you say everything you've ever made was perfect? Any of you ever burnt anything? You forget about something? It happened in the restaurants. We mess things up. You do it at home. My mom said when her and my dad got married, she burned a pot of water. I guess she let it go dry. That's the only way I know to burn a pot of water. She couldn't cook at all. She turned out to be a good cook. Becky's dad was from Kentucky. That's how Becky learned how to cook. The next slide. Mothers are managers, verse 16. Proverbs 31:16. She considereth a field and buyeth it with the fruit of her hands. She planteth a vineyard. Now, I understand back then things were a lot different. Most moms don't go out and plant vineyards. Yeah, you have gardens and small gardens. And you go back a generation or two, and they had giant gardens, farmers, and all that. What would we do without that? things were a little different back then, and he's looking, Solomon's looking at how things were then. Did things a little different. But still, moms have to be all things. She has to be multifaceted. She has to be a manager. Godly mothers are able to balance and manage all the different things, aspect of a household and of motherhood at the same time. My mom could do a very good job. There was a time I was I remember she went to work when I was around 4th or 5th grade, somewhere in there. Before that, she never had to work much. She was working at a place called Coin Acceptors, and she worked second shift and got a call one night. And this machine came down to stamp things. Well, her hand was in moving the parts, and the machine came down on her hands. For several years, my mom couldn't. She used to crochet. She did a lot of things with her hands, and for several years, because that machine hurt her hands, she couldn't do those things. But you know what? She didn't stop. Now to look at my mom, of course she's 80 years old now, she can't crochet now, but a few years later she went back and she was able to do everything she could do before she had that accident, before that machine. Now back then, if it would have been now, would have sued for $20 million. Back then, there was no lawsuit, didn't do stuff like that back in the early 60s. It was an accident, it happened. But my mom bounced back from it. Like I said, if you look at her now, you wouldn't tell that she ever had that happen. But for a long time, she couldn't do the fine things, but it didn't stop her. She still cooked, she still cleaned, she still took care of us, she still did the things she had to do. My dad had to work. So look at this next slide. Mothers are what? Got it up there? Mothers are mighty. Mothers are mighty. Verse 17 says, Proverbs 31:17, she girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. Loretta's mom used to say, getting old wasn't for what, Loretta? Sissies. I have, motherhood is not for wimps. Or sissies. Now, a lot of people go into motherhood, parenthood, without thinking about it. I understand there's no, you buy a phone, you buy a smartphone, and you got a book about this thick, with writing so small, you couldn't read it anyway. And you have a child, they send you home with one piece of paper that said, feed them, change their clothes, change their diaper, spank them when they need it. Whatever. There's no guide they send you home with, but you buy all kinds of other things that have all these instructions. Now, instructions don't mean a thing to Randy. Guess who else doesn't read instructions and do things? Mackenzie. Randy deserves Mackenzie. She doesn't. She's just like her dad. But motherhood, parenthood doesn't come with instructions, but moms have to be mighty. Mother is not for wimps. We tried to pull things over on Mom. She always had eyes in the back of her head. We tried to trick her. She always knew. I remember asking, how do you know what we're trying to do? You know what she told me? Because I did the same thing myself. I did the same thing. Parents are not dumb. They can see between the lines. They can see everything going on. Mothers are merciful, verse number 20. She stretched out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. Now God made women with a softer heart than men. You know, I've said this before, but kids come in, they scrape their knee, they go to Mom, because Mom's going to pat it, she's going to clean it, she's going to put a Superman or Barbie Band-Aid on it, a unicorn Band-Aid, she's going to kiss it, she's going to make it all better. But to come into Dad, Dad says, suck it up, you'll live. Go back out and play. And that's true to an extent. You got to make, Randy's trying to Kinsey tough, and she's little. She's going to be the one protecting Gage. She's going to be the one taking up for Gage. But God made women and men different. Men have a harder heart. They have to be. They have to be stronger. A lot of things going on. And God made women softer. Their hearts, their minds, they look at things differently. She's stretching out her hand to the poor. Godly mothers can do wonders with a kiss and a hug. It's usually the women, not all women, but when somebody needs something, it's usually the mothers that see the need before anybody else does. And she sees what needs. Sylvia, is your mom like that? Just a little bit? Loretta always sees what somebody else needs. And there's several of you here who would give your shirt off your back. I had a mother-in-law like that. If she walked in here right now and somebody came in with no shoes, she'd take hers off and hand them to them. No hesitation, no say, well, I need my shoes. It's wet outside, it's cold outside. She would have gave it to him. Several of you mothers, you know what it's like because you do the same thing. We have to do it for our kids. The mothers are models. Proverbs 31:25, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in times to come. Strength and honor. We used to think of models as some beautiful girl, woman, going down the runway with these special clothes on, but godly mothers model something completely different. They are adorned with the strength of honor which comes from the Lord. Our pastor in Springfield, I think I told you, but Dr. Dow said when he was a baby in a crib, his mom was deathly sick. She climbed out of her bed every night, crawled across the room, and would pray for that little boy. And he turned out, Dr. Dow turned out to be one of the greatest preachers in this country. But she crawled out of her bed. He said, he was told later that she crawled across the room every night to pray for him. That's a dedicated mother. That's a dedicated mother. That's what mothers have to be. They get their strength from God. Moms, you couldn't do what you've done or what you do without the Lord's help. Mothers are mentors, verse 26, Proverbs 31:26. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Now, a mentor is someone who is wise, a wise counselor, and somebody who is a teacher. We all have mentors that we look up to. J. Falwell, Charles Stanley, preachers, Oliver Green. Those men and my pastors in St. Louis and Springfield are the ones that molded me. They were my mentors. I watched them. I saw how they conducted their lives. I listened to their preaching. And professors, we have mentors. We have people who are teachers who we learn from, and we should. We should learn from them. Mothers are mentors. They've already gone through what we've gone through. And most of our moms, most of you are here, your moms had it a lot rougher than you had, probably. Am I right, Con? Your mom probably had it rougher than you did. They had it rougher than we had it. Each generation gets it easier and easier. Our kids have it a lot easier. Somebody asked the other day on Facebook, I'm in a group with BBC, a bunch of friends from BBC. Somebody said, what would have happened if we would have had iPhones when we were in college? One guy wrote, we would have got kicked out. Would have been a lot different. Would have been a whole lot different. We didn't have computers. Manual typewriters. Had to go back, professors would hand papers back for a couple spelling errors. Had to type the whole thing over because there was a couple spelling errors. The theology was right, the premise was right, but a couple words were spelled wrong. Your fingers go quicker than your mind. Except for Joyce, Joyce especially, she types 400. No, she got what, 130 words a minute, because she did it for years. I made mistakes, have to type them over. Randy come home and he said, I got to do this paper again. He got on the computer, got on Word, beep, 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 backwards, changed the words, printed it, hit the button, and I said, you suffer so much. And I went like this to him. The world's smallest record says, my heart bleeds for you. He had it so hard. And kids today have it so rough with computers. We didn't have that. Oh, they have other problems, I know. But we didn't have it that easy. But mom's a mentor. And that certainly applies to godly mothers. Godly mothers teach their daughters how to be godly wives. And they teach their children how to serve the Lord. They teach them the truth of the gospel. In most cases, it's the moms that take kids to church. Not always, but it's usually the moms. There are more women that go to church than men. And then lastly, verse number 28 says, mothers are memorable. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praiseth her. I'm not saying, men, you got to get down and on your hands and knees and salami. But we're told to honor our wives. Children are told to honor their parents. Honor thy father and thy mother that what? What's it say? Days will be long on the earth. That's a promise from God. If you honor your father and mother, you'll live a long time. It's God's plan, the family. Now, Satan is trying to do everything he can in our world today to destroy the family. If he can destroy the family, then he destroys the church. He destroys the church, he destroys the ministry. He destroys the work of the gospel. He's doing everything he can to destroy families. No family is perfect. How many of you have a weird uncle? Or somebody like that in your family? How many of you have... Raise your hand if you have somebody that's different in your family. I'm the weird one in our family, I admit. At least I admit it. We always have somebody who doesn't fit the bill. Becky, one of Becky's uncle, he had children of his own, a few years old. They lived across the street from some kids. There was a 5-year-old girl that lived across the street. And he said, I'm going to marry that girl. About 18 years or so later, he divorced his wife and he married that girl. He had that in his head the whole time. Why? Who knows? Who knows? The mothers are memorable. That's what Mother's Day is all about. Mothers, we all have certain memories. And when I do a funeral, I tell people the person that has died, I always tell everybody, each one of you have different memories of this person. Because to each one of you, they were different. It might have been your husband, wife, your child, your aunt, uncle, whoever. Friend, whatever, but I always say each person has a different memory of the person that's gone. No matter how many siblings you have, you all have different memories of your mother. You all have different memories of your mother. I remember walking with my mom and pushing the stroller with my brother in it. So he wouldn't remember it, but I remember walking down to get the streetcar. Yeah, I'm that old. The streetcars in St. Louis. I remember riding them, pushing this stroller. Now my mom said a while back, of course some of her stories are the thing with her brain, she said that one time we walked, me and her pushed the stroller from North St. Louis to South St. Louis. I don't remember doing that. I would have been 3.5 years old. That would have been a long walk for a 3-year-old. Whether it happened or not, I don't know. But I remember things like that. Before when my brother was little, he doesn't remember. We were talking about some friends the other night. He would have been 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. He doesn't remember them. But then he has memories of Mom that I don't, because when they all moved to Florida, he has seen her a lot more. He was going to go down to Syria yesterday, and he ended up having to work. They called him, had to work yesterday. Somebody needed sand. Imagine needing sand in Florida. But you all have special memories of your mother. Doesn't matter what sibling, what it is, you all have things that your mother, whether she's alive or in heaven, are special to you. Don't ever let them go away. They're treasures. And I'm sure that all of us could tell some things about Mom that we liked, that we disliked. None of us ever liked getting disciplined. Did Mom ever discipline you and you say, good job, I'm glad I'm getting a spanking? I'm glad Mom's whooping me? Those paddles, that Hot Wheel, I told you, I bought that Hot Wheels track and I wished I hadn't done that. Because it was used for a lethal weapon. It's called a paddle. Today you go to jail for it, but Mom spanked me with it. The paddles. The wooden spoons. Randy has told Melinda about Randy wooden spoons. Here at the church, on Randy's backside, then we had to go buy a new wooden spoon. They don't make anything like they used to. No, we didn't like the discipline, but we love our mothers. And this day today is set aside to honor mothers. So if you get a chance, if your mother is alive, she's not here, give her a call. Some of them are in heaven. Right, already talked to them. Say, Mom, I miss you. Maybe some of you already cried. I miss you. I miss you. I miss you. But you're here because you're godly mothers. And that's the most important thing. You've raised your children in the admonition of the Lord. Why? Because it's important to you. You want your children to go to heaven with you, right? Some of you have your grandchildren. That's our goal. We want to see our grandkids saved. We think Aiden and Connor are both saved. We know they are. Don't know about Nolan. Gage has got saved. Kinsey says she is. Got 2 more grandkids. We want to see them saved. Aiden has never been baptized. I would love to be able to baptize my grandson. But the baptism is not as important as the salvation. We want to see the other 2 saved. That's our goal. That's our goal. So, Father, thank you for bringing us together today. It's a day we're honoring moms. Setting aside a day to thank our moms, to do things for them. Some mothers are in heaven. For those who are missing their mothers. But thank you for each one of us, the memories that we have of each one of our mothers. We're all different. Different siblings have different memories. But Lord, the godly mothers that are here, I honestly want to say thank you for them. They represent you. They represent the Savior. And they have the goal of their children knowing Jesus Christ as their Savior. Bless our day, Father. May you be honored by what we've done today. Bless, guide, and direct us, and we'll thank you for it in Christ's name. And all God's people said,